Welcome to episode 26, first time I've remembered, of Tangled Rights. I am one of your hosts, Justin W. I voted Wilson. Oh, there it is.
Shane D. I voted at Allegiant Stadium.
Hell
Cox,
yeah.
Esquire.
I voted at Allegiant Stadium. Tell him what I did this morning, Shane, which was probably not smart.
Oh, we were in line beforehand because we were worried about time, even though Allegiant Stadium had a lot of places to vote.
I thought it was like 1.5 times of a regular polling station, and I anticipated it was going to be huge. I thought that was the point.
Yeah, it was about 50% bigger. Yeah, you're right.
Which, whatever.
And then Jackie Rosen voted there too, so it's got to be a cool place to vote. Who is our current senator, and maybe when you watch this, she's our re-elected senator. I don't know about that.
By then, the results should be out.
Oh, for sure. So it was slightly bigger than normal, but it was just like outside on the concourse, not. It was inside the building. If you've been to Allegiant Stadium where the Raiders play,
He's been many times.
it's indoors, but not really even that indoors next to the shop.
And he's underwhelmed.
The only good thing about it is it's a new stadium.
I wanted to vote on the field.
I thought that for sure they were going to have like hundreds of them set up, and that was the point, was just to roll people through.
Yeah, no, it wasn't that. Wasn't that crazy? But while we were in line waiting, Justin gave an interview to the Review Journal reporter, which they always tell you your vote's private, but freedom of press, anybody can ask you anything.
And there were two people right in front of us that were like, they kind of found out what he wanted, and they were like, nah, sorry, no comment.
But it was a guy we had seen before.
I saw him in your favorite friend's trial.
Yes.
What was his name again?
It was a super interesting name.
Like Harold Rarold or something?
No, it was Noble Brigham.
I knew it was something.
Noble Brigham.
Noble Brigham.
Come on our podcast.
He
Noble.
looks like, no offense to Noble, I mean, good for him, but he looks like he's under 18. He just has a very young face. Like he's just got a young look about him. But he's 5'10" or 11. He's a decent sized dude. He's not small. He just looks young.
He graduated from college this year, so
he's 22.
So he could be 22.
Unless he's like real smart, unlike the exact opposite of us, then he could be 21.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah, so he asked me some questions. I gave him answers. I told him some of the things I was excited about. Local elections primarily, judges specifically. I told him my opinion about this year's presidential race. And the exact quote that he's going to put in the Review Journal, because I saw him writing it down, was hot garbage.
Did you quote the show? Did you say?
He also somehow the pod got plugged.
I don't know.
That's all that matters. Everything else is.
Oh yeah, the pod got plugged. So we're gonna either get a bunch of hate mail or a bunch of. I mean, it should be both. Hopefully, both sides are like, yeah, he's stupid.
You know what I always think as we're in the thick of things, like, appearing on somebody who's facing multiple felonies this morning, and I'm talking to them about their case. It doesn't matter who the president is when I'm dealing with this person in front of me facing felony charges. It doesn't change the way that this prosecutor looks at this crime and interprets this. So,
and since it's Henderson,
I deal with things that are, I don't know. I understand that some presidential choices really affect certain aspects of people's lives, but there's a lot bigger things sometimes.
Yes.
There's a lot bigger things for people that I feel like I'm dealing with every day. So
yeah, I mean, when you're talking about something like that, especially like not even Mo's case, but like the one you're talking about, or some of the track cases where it's like, look, this guy's never had a felony in his life. He's going to probably get probation, but he's 23 years old and his life is going to be changed for the rest of it. Yeah. It's not, and I don't really think about it. It's kind of like anytime that something bad happens, like getting shot at, like that one day, remember when we were out in the desert and that dude almost, I wasn't really scared when it was happening. I got scared afterwards. When it happened, I'm like, just get in the truck, move, yada, yada, yada. It's the same kind of thing. Like, I don't think about it until after. I'm like, man, I'm glad I didn't screw that up.
But I mean, the judicial elections just mean more to us because it affects people like very much more directly that we deal with every single day. And
people automatically assume, or at least I've gotten this a couple times, I don't know about you, that we want judges who are just going to be like super, super light on crime.
No.
I want judges who are going to be fair and reasonable.
Yeah.
And impartial. Yeah. Right? They're going to judge every situation independently. Because I got to live here.
Yes.
If they just started, pulling a Southern California ORing everybody like the DA of LA County, who's probably losing, which is good. I think it would be worse for everybody.
And another campaign thing I heard a lot, which I was upset with, was that Kamala, as a prosecutor, would go easy on people or let them out or something like that, and then they would go and commit another crime. So they would blame the prosecutor for that.
That's not what I heard.
That is.
She was pretty tough on crime. From my
Yeah,
understanding.
so that was one of the Trump ads that was anti-Kamala, was that people, by their own choice, would go after and commit crimes, but
Sure.
you blame the last prosecutor on the case. And I was like, I was very turned off by that, because I don't think that you should blame a prosecutor for the actions of somebody later. And most times it's the judge that gets to decide sentencing anyway. So
Correct. I mean, the prosecutor does get to ask for it, though. So, I mean, if you have a prosecutor like L.A. County who's saying, yeah, we're not seeking bail in this case when it's an armed robbery,
yeah,
right? That's a different situation.
or a murder or something like that.
Yeah.
Exactly. But
She was a prosecutor from 1990 to 2004.
she did it for a while. She still looks young.
How old is she?
I don't know,
50-something?
50 something.
She would still be... She would still be like one of the youngest presidents in our lives if she was
Yes.
president.
Yeah. Well, all right. Enough about the election. It already happened. Whoever's been elected president.
It's happening.
It's happening now, but by the time this is posted online,
Whatever
on
will
Monday-
be, shall be.
Yes. And Tangled Rights will continue.
And Austin voted proudly.
Yes.
3 times.
I voted Kanye all 3 times.
Kanye.
He
Kanye,
voted-
Kanye. That's disgusting.
For Kanye.
Kanye's probably worse than
Why is Kanye worse?
he's insane.
He has a mental illness,
Yeah. Okay.
doesn't he?
He's just like me.
Yay, we're the same.
He's just like us. He's just like us.
I feel like I need one of those little sticks and I can make the...
So last time, as we were logging off, we were waiting for a verdict from a trial.
Oh.
A multi-week jury trial.
Did we get it?
We got it.
What happened? Was it...
There were 4 counts,
And?
and the jury was unanimous,
Oh,
as they had to be.
they had to be. And what...
On-
that sounds scary.
on
What happened?
All 4 counts, and they checked the box, or the 4 boxes that said not guilty, not guilty,
Not
not
guilty.
guilty, not guilty. So we call that an acquittal.
We say and one after that.
And one. Yeah.
And then we walk out and an explosion happens behind us and it's super cool.
It's easy to talk about now.
Yeah.
But
now that it's...
but
Dude,
man,
but seriously,
the stress in that
still,
moment.
I still don't feel like I got back in, after, a tournament or something difficult physically, it takes a couple days, but I'm like, oh, I'm back. I'm good. My mental focus is good. Dude, I still feel like I felt exhausted by 9 o'clock this morning.
So
It lasted
we're not
forever.
going to get into too many of the specific details of things. We want to talk about trial kind of generically and how this
Sure.
looked. But our client was facing a life sentence,
Times
possible
2.
life sentence,
2 10 to lives.
plus some other years.
Plus 2 very comparatively minor crimes.
Yes. So,
Along with lifetime registration.
so a big crime, big serious thing he was facing.
That's adult stuff. That's big boy stuff right there.
That's yeah.
Because he's 29 years old and he would have died in prison probably.
That's who cares who president is. You're facing
Don't matter.
life.
Didn't care about the election.
Without the
Actually, the
possibility
only
of
way I
parole.
did care about the election then is because like every single day I would get 20 calls from the Harris Waltz campaign. And then the weekend before and this weekend, they were coming to my house and ringing my doorbell and asking to talk to me
I wonder why.
because I'm registered as a libertarian.
But I don't know.
Because I'm the one that they want to convert. Anyway, so anytime that I would start to tell them my opinion, they're, oh, well, you don't want to talk now. And I was like, no. You guys are going to listen. You wanted to talk. Now we're talking. I'm telling you why I'm not voting for her. Yeah, it didn't work. I asked them politely to take me off the list for the first 10 or 15 times. And after that, it was like,
I don't know how that all works. But.
anyway. Yeah.
So Justin, tell us. Justin was primarily. I was helping just a little tiny bit.
he was there.
so-
He did some things that were very critical when I needed him to do them.
Hooray!
It's team effort. That's the thing that people forget. It was myself, another attorney and myself. He had a paralegal that was with us. Shane helped. We had a friend that was at the trial. Hey, he gave me some good notes. Our intern, who's done some market analysis for us and some research. He gave me some really good notes. some things that because it's a different perspective, right? Especially during voir dire,
Yeah.
and things like that. And voir dire is when you select a jury, you have to try and figure out, looking at everything, not just the answers that they're giving, but how they're responding, their demeanor, which jurors you think is going to be the best one, and that's where it starts. They bring in everybody. They have what's called a jury veneer, which is we did 3 panels, or was it 2? Yeah, 2 panels
Of how many?
70 some each. So a total of 140 jurors to get down to 14. So 90% attrition rate.
And how many did you guys boot?
We get 9 peremptories.
Well, how many did you boot for cause,
Cause,
even before?
and let me explain that. Peremptory is just we think there's something that they don't need to be a juror. We just got a weird feeling about them, like they're going to be more skewed towards the prosecution and less in the middle. Oh yeah, absolutely. Austin was making a symbol as to people's political affiliations, and that's how we picked them. No, that's against Batson, Austin. You can't pick based on race, ethnicity, religion, gender, any of that stuff.
And you guys don't get voting. That's not on the list that I've seen. Voting.
You can see it.
You can see it. It's
Yeah.
on. It's on the paper they give you.
No, while we were doing it, I was Googling every single one of them.
Okay.
And each day I managed to get to the entire list while we were there.
Okay.
Which is probably something I learned I'm going to do after the fact once we boot people for cause, because then it's a waste, right? It's like, oh, damn, we booted 12 people for cause, and I looked them all up.
Yeah.
So peremptory challenges are just because you want to, and then for cause is whenever they say something. Oh, I had a family member who had this happen to him. There's no way I could be impartial. I'm not even going to give this guy a fair shake, right? I'm not going to wait.
And some of them tell you, some of them don't.
Yeah, and then there were
You're
people
gonna
that
have
were like,
to
"Look,
pull it out of
I
them.
got charged one time, and it was bogus, and they ended up dropping the charges, and I hate authority, I hate their system, and I think that they're all full of shit."
So
so
the
they get struck as well.
Prosecution would want to move to strike them for
Yeah, and
cause.
they get struck because they say they can't be impartial.
You're entitled to a jury, of
Fair and impartial
peers
jury.
That's fair and impartial.
Yep.
And this is the process to figure that out.
So that was 3 days. We picked the jury, and then we started the following Monday. So I think we went Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, or something like that. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
You started on Wednesday, so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Then we started again on Monday.
Then I think.
Or no, we started
it was-
on Tuesday.
It was
Started on
dark
Tuesday.
Monday. Yeah,
It was dark Monday.
Tuesday.
So then we get straight into opening statements. And the opening statement is when each side gets to say what they think is going to come out. Obviously, you have to base it on some, reasonable belief. You can't just make stuff up, and you also can't argue.
In criminal, it's harder too, I think, because sometimes the evidence is coming in last minute. As compared to civil cases, you have a period of discovery that's
And
a long time that you're supposed to have it all out by.
Sure.
And then in criminal, the defense doesn't have to affirmatively show all their cards.
Correct.
Even so, sometimes it's
Sure.
in a criminal sense, it's a little more. We believe that this is going to come out, but
Well, and that's a tough thing, especially as the defense side, because your client has a right to testify,
yes.
but they also don't have to.
And most times you don't want to. I don't know. You want to see what comes out from the prosecution
he
and the witnesses
kinda-
before. Yeah. So
It was kind of his idea that he was going to testify, and so from the start, not the client, the lead attorney on it, which I suggested was a bad idea, and I was right, and it turned out to save the case.
you never know.
You do know.
It's like these moments in time that fracture, and you don't know for sure.
The multiverse is
The
real.
multiverse, yeah.
Doctor Strange will navigate for us.
So, sometimes you have to commit an opening so you don't fool the jury, or sometimes you say, "We're not sure."
you keep it amorphous so that you're not
Yeah.
committing to something that you can't show him. So
But if you say he's going to testify, if you say your defendant's going to testify, then he has
you got to
to.
testify.
Yeah,
that's
so
why
that's
you shouldn't say
even
something like that.
before the trial. You have to have that conversation. Hey, are you going to waive, or are you going to talk, or do we want to wait? And so, huge decision. I think I said in last week's episode, the defendant can wait until the defense's case in chief to testify. So it's not like you can be called first. You can wait to see what the prosecution has. So they have to show all their cards, and then you can decide, okay, do we have enough of a case? Like, is their case credible, or do I have to come in and plug these holes or whatever?
Yeah, because they're trying to meet the burden. The prosecution has the burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt, but sometimes, obviously they're going to present their case in a way that favors them. Like, for example, in their closings, they didn't even, and the closing is a summation. So you talk about the evidence that came out. Elin didn't even talk about the problems with their case. He waited for Dina on that. And I thought that was interesting that he didn't even, hey, my co-counsel is going to get up here next and explain to you all these things.
And I don't know if we've said this before, that closing arguments in civil and criminal cases are the same, in that the plaintiff or the moving party that has to meet their burden, they go first, and then the defense goes in the middle, and then the plaintiff or prosecution gets to go again. They get the last word.
Yeah.
So there's two separate closings, usually on the prosecution side, and everyone I've seen here in Clark County, they have one prosecutor, usually the second chair, who does the first closing, and then the more senior attorney that does kind of the one that hits home. And usually the first closing is always like very semantic, like, hey, these are the crimes, this is what we had to prove, this is why we met element A here, B here, C here, D here. More boring one. I'd say that's what I've seen in the many trials I've watched. And then the last prosecutor kind of gets to have a little more flair, a little more emotion, a little more persuasion. So, but your point is the first closing didn't kind of even talk about, hey, we might have holes in this case, and it's going to be talked about later. You know, I'm just going to tell you what elements we hit.
Sure.
But it's a stylistic thing. There's so much style, and this is where having the right attorney or having the right attorney for your case could change the layout of your case, because to persuade a jury, they could go either way. We have people who came and watched, and they just heard the state's closing, and they're like, well, guilty. All right.
So let me go back. We did voir dire. Then the state does their opening. Then the state, we did openings, and then the state does their case in chief. And what that means is they present their evidence, right? As they see, they call witnesses, they put exhibits in. We have stipulated exhibits, which are exhibits that we all agree are coming in, no problem. There were ones we argued on. We had a lot of evidentiary issues in this trial. There were more mistrials motioned for than every other trial I've ever even seen. Not even trials that I've necessarily been at, but like trials I've seen on TV that were real trials. I've never even seen somebody miss trial motions.
I mean, you approach and do that sometimes.
Sure,
too,
yeah, I don't know, but
maybe those aren't, you don't see those in whatever online. But
so they presented the victim, her mom, her dad, a couple of cops, her best friend that was there with her, and another student that was there, and their stories were wildly inconsistent. And I'm not even saying it like based on my side, oh, this is what we argued.
That's what the jury said too.
That's what the jury said. I mean, I think the not guilty verdict on a he said, she said, whenever he didn't even technically speak, speaks volumes. We were able to just cross-examine. So that was the one thing that my co-counsel did that I will probably take. And, I try to learn something from everybody. I even learned things from Dina this time, or it reaffirmed things that I like, that I was like, oh, that worked. The jury liked it. And I didn't have to make that choice in front of them to reaffirm that I enjoyed it. But he cross-examined the witness for the victim for 7 hours,
and the jury didn't have a problem with. After the jury gives their verdict, they can stay and talk, or they can leave and tell you to screw off. So of the 12, 5 stayed behind to chat with us, and we had an extended conversation with them, 45 minutes-ish.
Probably so, yeah.
Because we just want to learn. I was there for this too. So we just want to talk about what worked, what they thought, like what were the big moments of trial, or what we can do better.
Well, and a big one too is you get some insight into what they key on.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's something you wouldn't expect, but then sometimes it's obvious things, right? And so that was good.
And everybody has a different voice. And in a room with 12 people, some people get offended and they feel like they're not heard, but that's got nothing to do with us. With us, no. It's just
personalities.
Yeah.
That was one of the things they talked about, was that there was one guy in there who was holding the whole thing up. And it started out 8-4 not guilty. It went 10-2 not guilty, and then 11-1 not guilty, and then ultimately not guilty.
Yeah.
So either way, even without us doing anything, without them doing anything, when they came in there, 2/3 of them thought he wasn't guilty, which means that we did our job on cross-examination.
Yeah.
Because we created enough reasonable doubt.
And that's harder to overcome, because if it starts 8 guilty, 4 not guilty, man, that could go the other way real quick.
Real fast.
Right?
Real fast.
So
you have to do your job on the front end before you even give it to the jury.
Right.
So after their case in chief, again, there were a lot of discrepancies in the recollection, testimony, whatever, not just individually, but then also from each other. We got ready to do our case in chief, and then we rested
Nothing.
because we didn't have to put our guy on.
Nothing.
And that was probably my biggest contribution to the case. The other attorney really wanted to put him on. I cross-examined him in like a mock cross-examination 2 nights before at dinner, and I just made stuff up. But I went off of the evidence that I knew. You know, obviously I'd seen a lot of the case, but I didn't prepare a cross, and I pulled him apart like a piece of bread in 5 minutes. I was like, dude, you cannot testify. And I told the other attorney when we were walking out, I was like, you cannot let him testify or we will lose. And it's not like, I think he did it, and like cross-examination has nothing to do with the truth.
And this is why we say don't talk to cops. They can make guilty or innocent people look guilty. They
All
can
the
make
time.
them feel like they'll make you feel nervous, and you'll say or you'll mix up your words a little bit, like I do on the podcast all the time. You know, you'll just say something wrong, and then
Or you'll do what I do and talk too much.
and the cop will hear something that they think that they want to hear.
Yep.
And then they'll put their eyes squarely on you. So being against a trained cross-examiner, you know, in a prosecutor is not where you want to be.
Especially with Miss Renetti. She's a good prosecutor.
And she'll ask you questions that you'll have to answer. And if you look evasive, you look guilty. So it's
And so that was my biggest contribution. And that was shout out Jennifer Lee Ferris from Legal Ride. When we talked about it, I like to bounce ideas off of other attorneys. I bounced a lot of stuff off of you. And I asked her, I was like, hey, this is where we're at. What do you think? Give me your thoughts. And she talked about a prior case where an attorney got too cocky. He was doing great. And he's like, watch this. I'm going to turn it from, you know, an on the ground home run to a real home run. And then their defendant gets up there. They get in their own way, and then they lose the case. Let's say we're winning. Because the only thing you can do is hurt yourself. If you're already in the position where you're dominant, right? Obviously you were.
And you were.
The only thing it can do is cause more damage.
Yeah.
Yep. But that's the other thing. It's like that's when your attorney gets to make that determination, right? Like, hey,
The attorney doesn't make the determination.
well, I say
makes
make the determination
suggestion
to give the advice is what I mean.
Okay.
Right? To say, hey, I think you should do this, and here's why.
On advice of counsel.
Correct.
You know, the defendant decided not to testify.
But, you know, there were a couple of things that shook out in our favor. I think the prosecution screwed a couple things up with how they prosecuted the case, personally. I'm not going to get into that here. There were just some choices I would have made differently that I think would have strengthened their case.
You never know, though, what's on their side and what they're working with. So,
but I know that they put on a great case. They both, you know, did their closings, and they did the best they could with the evidence they had.
sure.
I disagree. So I disagree with them on a couple of things that we talked about after the fact. Because I just asked them, you know, they always ask me, did he do it? Whether I really think he did or not. Like, because that's not, my job is not whether they did it or not. My job is to make sure that the state is held to their burden.
Yep.
Right. And that the evidentiary rules are preserved and all that stuff. But I truly don't think that this guy did what they had him charged with. And that's basically what I left it at. And then I turned the thing back around on them. And I was like, look, seeing everything you've seen and hearing everything you've heard and all the times you've read it and how it got different every single time. You still think, and he's like, oh yeah, I believe
They have to
I
say
believe it.
yes.
They don't have to say yes. Come on.
Otherwise, why would you prosecute the case? Well, I guess, and it depends on who's the attorney, because there's one that comes in for trial and is kind of seeing these things for the first time, and you don't necessarily hear how the story's told
Right.
in person, and that can change your opinion because people want to do their own investigation too, and sometimes you
Come to their own conclusions.
You do it at trial.
So after we rest immediately, we go straight into closings, or we would have. Came back for closings the next day, and then, we did closings, and then went to the jury the next day, and then the jury took about a day to deliberate from 9 a.m. till 3 p.m.
That was about it, yeah.
Yeah, and then they came back with a not guilty verdict. And there's obviously stuff in between, motion work,
Yes.
some bench briefs, jury instructions, the PowerPoint that I created. Well, it was created originally by somebody else, but I completely modified it. I changed it dramatically. Put a lot of work into that. And, you know, that was one of the things that I think was super helpful, was to kind of break down the inconsistencies in those tables, which I thought was a clever idea. I just wish I could have found a check mark. You know what I mean? Because I was looking for a check mark and an X, but instead I found the no smoking sign and a plus.
We'll find
but it was good, but it resonated with the jury. They liked it. They liked the visual.
Yes.
It just needs to be bigger. And next time I'll also print it out,
Yeah.
like a big cardboard thing.
We'll work on everything.
But you learn little things, and this is how we refine our trial skills. And so the next trial we've got for sure scheduled is that murder trial. And that one, gonna do everything we can.
Nice. All right.
Yes.
Well, hooray for trial being over so we can get back to somewhat normal stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
If I can ever get focused again.
Let's talk about random, murder porn trials that we talk about. So this is where I shine.
I looked it up. It's informative murder porn is what it was called on the South Park episode.
And you know what? I've been thinking about this, and I think some people's obsession with this stuff is weird, like incredibly weird.
But mine is different.
Is us.
Stop whenever I
I can stop whenever I want, just like the energy drinks.
You're not allowed to drink caffeine.
I know. Sorry. So
season 17, episode 2, South Park.
When I look at these, I do these for a purpose of analyzing, the legal stuff. And I have a question for you on this next one. But does it just exploit it and make these things more popular? Never kill people. Don't kill people. If you want to get rid of somebody, just divorce and move away.
Well, yeah, don't murder your spouse unless
in self-defense.
But then it's not murder; it's just a homicide that's justifiable. So, yeah, there's a good one. Never commit murder.
Can we say that?
You can say don't commit murder because murder is a crime.
All right. So outside of Atlanta, Georgia, was
Hotlanta.
Gary Ferris, who was an attorney. He's no longer with us. His body remains were found in a burn pile. Okay, so this was lovingly called the burn pile murder trial.
Jesus.
Burn pile murder trial. So this is outside of Atlanta. Gary was a rich attorney, had a wife and grown kids, and after a few days, his body was found in this burn pile. Suspect one being his wife. They had a fractured relationship. Both had affairs. She had at least one significant affair partner. And then the trial comes out. And the big question, as you're a defense attorney, and this is what the defense attacked, is how does this little lady carry this man in from the home where he's killed into the burn pile? Okay.
How far was it up stairs? Like, what are we talking about here?
It's just outside the home, but the weight difference, she's in her 60s. I think she's in her 60s. Scrawny lady.
Was he in one piece?
He was in one piece, yeah. So that's
an easy solution.
This is kind of the
lighten the load.
This is kind of I guess chopping him up would have helped, but no, his remains, his skeleton was all together, and they were able to find the bullet still in his body.
Oh, so she didn't burn him properly. She just burned him a little bit.
I don't know about that.
Well, I mean, you got to get somebody pretty hot to. Anyway, whatever.
This was a super. These people seem to hate each other, and the kids of the mom, Melody Ferris, seemed to hate her too. Never referred to her as mom. One of the kids didn't refer to her as mom during the trial.
Call her Melody.
Just called her Melody. Yeah. And so,
dude, I had a friend growing up who called her mom Robin. And they loved each other. They were like super, super tight, but she just called her by her first name. It was weird.
Cultural. I mean, people are different. Whatever. Yeah. Like, it's fine. Whatever.
Yeah, anyway, sorry for interrupting.
No, you're good. Justin, I love when you interrupt. Thank you very much. I will let you know if I don't want you to interrupt. Okay.
Thanks. I'll do my best to be quiet more often, guys.
Commenters.
I was staring at the camera all creepy as her.
So. The timeline of events supposedly is that one of the daughters says, "Hey, Mom, can I sleep at the house on July 3rd? She says, "No, not tonight." Okay, just a text message. And then the family, minus the dad, goes out to party on July 4th, not at the home. And then a couple days later, he's found at the home. His body remains. They notice he's missing, and he's eventually found in this burn pile, his remains. Part of the trial is that her lover, her affair partner, AP, her affair partner said that she admitted Gary's in the burn pile for them to eventually find him there. So the fact that she knew where he was means that she must have done it. There was never any physical evidence that kind of really tied her to it.
So,
but there's some circumstantial, affair things that provide a motive. They did hate each other, was kind of predominantly what came out. But what was your comment? Sorry, Justin?
I don't
So the question I have from this case, it seemed interesting because there's no physical evidence, and those cases are, but there's never an explanation as to anyone else that might have done this, and he's found right outside the home. So, who else would have done it logically? But
He was cheating on her too, right?
proving a case beyond a reasonable doubt is a high burden. And for a while, the jury came back and they said to the judge that they were deadlocked. They said that they were deadlocked, okay? And then we kind of thought about this in our case because the jury did not go on for 15 hours like this one ended up being, but they went longer than we expected for the amount of evidence in a non-murder trial. 5, 6, 7 witnesses, only about an event, over the period of 24 hours. So we kind of talked about this, and the judge even mentioned, and one of the jurors of our case that we were just talking about said, what would have happened if we couldn't come to an agreement? So, Justin, I asked you before, what happens when a jury even suggests that they're not willing or unable to come to an agreement?
It depends on the state. In the state of Nevada, they get an instruction, a special instruction, and they're asked to go back and attempt again to come to a verdict.
Okay. Do you know what the specific language is?
Allen charge is what it's called. So an Allen charge,
This is a U.S.
as a dynamite or hammer charge, refer to jury instructions given to a hung jury or a jury that is unable to reach a consensus, urging them to come upon a verdict. The name refers to a U.S. Supreme Court case that in the late 1800s that approved of the use of a jury instruction by the presiding judge in order to prevent a hung jury. So what it does is it asks the jurors in the minority, so whoever is lower, so if the guilties are 8 and the not guilties are 4, whatever, to consider the reasonableness of their views, to take their views of other jurors into account with a disposition toward being convinced. And so that's what we do. It's an Allen instruction.
So, I guess the idea behind this is
It can be, real quick, sorry, just something I found. It's federal court and 22, can be used in federal court. 22 states prohibit their use.
including Nevada, right? We don't use it, but
No, but she said she was going to do it.
no, she cited a different case. I want to say,
Oh, whatever.
Allen, but
Same thing.
so there's a special instruction in Nevada. There's a special instruction from a judge based on our Nevada Supreme Court, telling the jury, it's always, hey, you guys heard the evidence. You're in the best place to determine this evidence. Come back and tell us, guilty or not. And reasonable minds can differ in that, and they're not going to stop you from coming back hung, but that just causes a mistrial. We've talked about that word mistrial. It's any trial that starts that cannot be completed with a final verdict. So both parties go back to square one, and they'd have to do this trial again. And the judge does not want that. That's not swift justice for anyone. So getting the answer then is what is the preference of the system, usually the preference of the defendant, maybe not always.
Yeah.
But you want to get to some kind of conclusion so that the case can end one way or the other. That makes the most sense anyway. So they can't force you or hold you hostage. And if one person says, nope, I'm not changing my mind, I'm not guilty or I'm guilty. So that happened in this trial where it got to the point, the Melody Ferris trial, the burn pile murder trial case, that they actually did ask, hey, we can't come to an agreement. So whatever Georgia's version of this instruction is, which I'm assuming every state has one, said, nope, you got to go back and you have to, come to an agreement. And then guess what? She came back guilty. So whether that is an appellate issue or not, is one thing, but don't kill your spouse. We just wanted to highlight, we're not about the murder. It's just because we're talking about one specific thing here. It's about hung juries, okay? And there's nothing like real life examples. You don't learn anything except for real life examples, what happens.
Yes.
And this guy really didn't think you were not guilty if he only hung out, for 14 hours on his, whoever the not guilty, person that was sticking out is not guilty. whoever or multiple whoever's. They didn't really think it was that important if they switched to guilty, So
Yeah, I mean, and that's one thing with our jury that we had in our case that I really, really liked in speaking to them. They were dead set about those rules.
yes,
The juror that was the 4-person, he stuck around because he was a talker. He loved talking.
he was a cool guy.
And I liked him. He was a cool guy. He was 21 years old, which is weird for a 21-year-old to be the foreman when you have people who are like, we had an assistant principal on there, and she was very strong for our side apparently, but she was just tired of it by the end. But we were in trial forever, so that's fair. But one of the things that he said, it was interesting because he was talking about one of the advocates and how they kind of did something emotionally, and he's like, "Look, we got an instruction that says we're not supposed to be emotional, so why is he emotional?" And I thought that was interesting that he, like, at one point, what was it? It was instruction number 11, like the second full sentence. He quoted it when he was talking to us. And I was like, dude, I don't even remember the jury instructions like that. I was like,
it's like, we looked at this a lot.
yeah,
Like,
apparently.
nice.
And so I thought that was the best part. And
That's what you should do.
And that's what I said to him. I was like, look, it doesn't matter what side you pick on. But if your conviction says this is the right answer, this is the truth, this is the reality of it, then that's what you got to do. So I do find it frustrating, even in ours, when it got down to 11-1, 11 not guilty to 1 guilty. That guilty guy, if he really thought he was guilty, really, like in his core.
And that's fine.
But if he did,
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything, but if he did, then he should have stuck to it.
Yeah.
I would have.
Well, and sometimes talking things out can change a person's opinion, right?
And he didn't stick around to talk to us either.
No, he jetted. And he was only was he an alternate originally too?
No, he was
okay.
the one that should have gotten struck because
Yes.
of that weird thing that happened the last day.
Yeah. So we had some jurors question about, and this is the court of public opinion thinks that if somebody doesn't step up to testify for themselves, that they are guilty.
Yes. And that's
If I were in that position, that's what they do is they think if they were in that position, they'd do something different without ever having been in that position to know what they do. Like a lot of people think that they'd be better than they'd really be in a situation. It's like me watching football, I would have caught that ball.
I can't believe this guy. Someone who is only 5'11" and weighs 219 pounds and runs a 4.340 just hit him and he dropped the ball. What a loser.
Serious. So
Loser.
I just feel like that happens sometimes where people think
He's getting hit with 35 horsepower.
Oh, if I were accused of something, I wouldn't take a deal. I'd take that to trial. It's like,
I'd go to the box.
no, you wouldn't.
Really?
Like,
And when your lawyer says, "Oh, first off, that'll be $100,000+ sir." Second thing, and the most important one, because let's be real, money doesn't matter if your life's on the line. You're 29 years old and you're going to die in prison if you're wrong, or you take this felony and you get probation for 3 years.
and every person's different. A lot of people think that they'd be real brave and, oh no, I wouldn't.
Sure.
I wouldn't get messed up. And even if you're telling the truth about something, you can get tripped up by a prosecutor.
Sometimes it doesn't matter.
You can get real tripped up by a prosecutor and be like, no, wait, I meant to say this, and then
Did you?
Oh,
Wait a minute.
Credibility's out the window.
You don't know. You didn't know what it was because you just had to change your answers. Isn't that right?
Yeah. So, and even if later a video comes out or DNA evidence comes out, you can look like you were lying, in that moment. So,
Yeah.
a big decision not to testify, and there is not supposed to be anything read into that by the jury. And yet,
What happens? As soon as we're getting ready to leave, right? When we're getting ready, and the judge had just read the instructions that say literally, you cannot take this into account. You're not bringing it into your jury deliberations, nothing. Lady raises her hand, and we'd just been talking about the food they were going to order for lunch the next day. And so the judge, rightfully so, and we all kind of thought like it was a dietary restriction. She just didn't want to say it out loud. She's like, I have a question, but I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say it. And so everyone was like, huh? And before we could even stop her, she goes, he's not going to testify. And the judge said no. And she goes, what was the point of the trial then? And it's just like, what? You're joking. And then we tried to rehab her, and she was to her credit, she was thinking hard about everything, but she didn't seem to be rehabilitated, and I was not convinced. And with the other guy too, because then we had to question every single juror individually to see if her question bothered them or made them change their opinions or if they understood the rules. And another guy was honest, and he was like, yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing. And it's like, all right, well, you guys both need to be off of here because what you just said was if he doesn't say anything, then he's guilty. And guess what? That's not the way it works.
No.
State bears the burden, and he has a constitutional right. Fifth
Amendment.
Plead the fifth.
Part of the Fifth Amendment, not talking to cops in the moment at trial. It extends a lot of different places. So keep that right. Don't talk to cops. and
Never.
Don't talk to prosecutors. Don't talk to investigators.
Don't talk to Austin.
Don't talk to anybody from the state. Don't talk to Sellies.
God, please
Don't talk on the jail phone.
don't talk on the jail phone.
Talk to your lawyer.
Talk to Justin W. Wilson, Esquire.
Talk to your spouse if you're married.
Oh,
if you're
God.
actually married.
Spouse is a specific
not,
word.
I feel like we're married. Not Nevada doesn't have
Common law marriage.
common law.
13 states do, and Kansas is one of them.
And does that even count for
Yes.
for privilege? That counts for privilege,
Bruh.
spousal privilege.
Bruh,
It's not here.
bruh.
What?
Full faith and credit, dog.
Oh, okay, whatever.
Full faith and credit, my dog.
My lawyer on the jail phone?
It should be
Yes,
private. You can
yes.
talk to your lawyer on the jail phone.
Yes, and then if they try and use that,
You can raise your middle finger and give him a second one.
we'd get that out. But that doesn't mean that.
And I'm going to put it in.
Yeah, no, that'd be prosecutorial
Hey!
misconduct.
They don't misconduct.
No.
Why would they?
All right, so I want to talk about another case that's been in
Okay,
the
so what
news.
was the question on that? Like, she did it. She burned him.
Yeah,
Okay.
but there was no physical evidence.
That's a weird one because to me, what it says is there was probably somebody else involved. If he's literally too big for her to pick up.
There was nothing that came out. I don't know if she's been doing her Pilates. She had a rich husband, so she probably in the gym
Does
doing her
Pilates help girls deadlift?
stuff. I don't know.
200 pounds of dead weight?
I don't know.
How big was this fool? Because I looked it up and I couldn't find
We'll
him.
have to look at pictures of dead man.
But I weigh 200 and probably about 7 pounds right now. And if I was just,
Yeah, no.
I mean, even me to pick me up, I could do it. It's not going to be easy. I mean, I guess, never mind. I know how to like farmer roll, get somebody. Yeah, I could do it. But it's not super easy. But someone who's, 30, 40 pounds lighter than me and 60 years old, probably not going to happen.
Yeah, no. He looked like a bigger guy.
Big old boy.
So yes,
Like Austin, a big old gal.
I mean, look at his face.
Let me see that face. Yeah, he looks like a bit of a chunkster.
I don't know how tall he is, but I mean,
He's 5'9".
she's a smaller lady. She was 64.
He was a height.
He looks like a thicker guy. So
Thick boy.
and I don't know if the
Damn boy, he thick.
if the affair partner helps and then turns on her,
That's what I'm saying. Maybe it was like a murder.
or maybe there's another.
And he had a $2 million life insurance policy. I saw.
Yeah, and he was an attorney. He had. I mean, they
What
seem
if the
to have
kids did it and then they got her framed for it, and now they get the $2 million because you can't get it if you kill him. Oh gosh. Dun dun dun.
Well,
Dun 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 dun.
we'll leave that to the people in the position to figure that one out.
People in positions to decide things.
Yeah.
Me, I just say words.
All right, I want to talk about Cynthia Hoffman. Okay,
What does she do?
she got killed.
Damn. Rip to her.
She got killed, but we always like to say rest in peace to the victim.
Oh, for sure. Because let's be very clear. I make jokes and stuff, but at the end of the day, every single one of these stories we've talked about,
It affects
some
people.
even
They're
worse. Like the little girls that got murdered, like they're all tragedies.
Real. Ugh, they're horrible, man.
You know, and this one, Miss Hoffman, somebody cared about her. She was somebody's daughter, friend, whatever. So I know I make light of stuff, but I want to be very clear. I'm not making light of the suffering of humans. It's just if you don't laugh, sometimes you're going to cry.
Yes.
Especially in our field. Like we deal with terrible shit all the time.
And my defense mechanism is just smiling and laughing. Okay,
Yes,
guys. When things are awkward, I laugh.
I have adjusted to trauma by making everything into a joke, including my own life. So
All right, Cynthia Hoffman
don't be offended.
is dead. Okay,
Rip to her.
she was killed by a girl named Denali Bremer.
Allegedly.
Nope, convicted, admitted.
Oh, admitted.
Yeah, this is done for.
Oh,
She's coming out, and Court TV has like stories of murderers.
what's going on with the TV behind Shane's head?
It's
You can leave that in, Austin. One more mistake like that, and it's the pool noodle for you. Yeah, I'm going to tie you down with your shirt raised up, and I'm going to give you a strawberry you've never heard of.
the wet pool noodle.
Oh, yeah.
Ugh.
The kind that's filled with lead.
Ugh.
You're going to have some bruised organs, my boy.
All right, so Cynthia Hoffman was killed by Denali Bremer.
Denali
Who
Bremer.
was her supposed best friend. This happened in Alaska.
Friends don't.
Well, this is a mixed up story. This is about a guy named Darren Schmiller. talked about the hat.
Killed her friend for 9.
Plug the hat in right here. So Darren Schmiller is from New Salisbury, Indiana, which is about a half hour out from Louisville, Kentucky. So today's hats are sponsored by the currently known as the Louisville Bats. It's a play on words because they also make the brand Louisville Slugger makes a lot of bats, but they're the animal bat is their logo. So kind of play on words there. They used to be the Louisville Colonels. So this is a colonel or colonel. I don't know why that's pronounced like that. And then Austin, you're the only one out of us who drinks here. So
And it's very seldom.
so do you know the difference between bourbon and whiskey?
It's how it's aged, right?
So bourbon, which is famous in Kentucky, is at least 51% corn. So one of their minor names that they play as sometimes is the mashers, because it's also called a mash that you put to make a whiskey. But a bourbon is at least 51% corn, has to be mostly corn. So this is a barrel holding a bag of corn that also has a baseball bat, but some cool colors. So that's Louisville is our hat of the day, Louisville Bats. Shout out to them. So
wait, is that Brimmer?
Yeah, that's a girl. That's a girl. She looks like she could be a teenage boy, right? Denali found a boyfriend online who she believed was rich and was going to take care of her. But the person behind that, this catfish murder kind of hire, was Darren Schmiller.
Darren Schillmiller.
Yeah, I don't know.
21-year-old living in his grandparents' basement.
We watched something online.
How could he be that convincing?
We watched something online that called him Schmiller, but
Schmiller.
I don't know how to pronounce it. So Darren Schmiller convinced her that he was a multimillionaire, and gave her an offer that if she were to kill anyone of her choosing, he would send her $9 million. So she chose her best friend to kill Cynthia Hoffman.
Dude, but there's also 2 other people that she looped into it.
Yep. She looped
What
in other
the
people,
hell?
maybe promising them money. I mean, those details didn't come out in my initial search. But she thought that she was going to get $9 million.
You're agreeing. You're not saying that you're down. I was like, what? Ugh. Anyway, continue.
So, man,
99 years in prison.
So Darren and Denali both took plea deals to get 99 years in prison in Alaska. He was extradited for, being involved in this, asking for this murder to happen. I didn't see the 2 friends. Yeah.
How do you get... That's dumb.
Extradited for a murder?
No, how do you get charged with a murder?
For not being there, for hiring somebody to do
when
it?
you weren't there.
Well,
not even hiring somebody, just saying something stupid.
And I don't know Alaska case law, and this reminds me of the Gypsy Rose one.
Yeah.
Where Gypsy Rose had asked her boyfriend to do the murder, and she ended up getting a second degree, and she's out now.
She was home when it happened.
Yeah,
right?
she was there listening to it. So I think there's, I don't know how their murder statute specifically reads, and it can be different per state, what their involvement is in the murder. And
oh my God.
Yeah.
I just
see the second part of this?
If it's about the motorcycle?
No. Tell me about that.
Her dad.
Whose dad?
Cynthia Hoffman's dad went on a motorcycle ride, like a memorial motorcycle ride on the 5th anniversary of her death and was killed.
Oh my gosh. I didn't see that.
The headline is Alaska father dies during motorcycle ride to honor daughter killed in bizarre murder for hire scheme.
Is it the dad? It's specifically...
It says the father of a 19-year-old Alaska woman killed in a murder for hire scheme in 2019 died during a weekend memorial motorcycle ride.
All right. And then...
Timothy Hoffman. Yeah, that's his name.
And then there's another part to this, Justin.
Jesus
Are you ready for this?
Christ, this is awful.
Are you ready for this part too?
Tell me.
Darren and Denali also were trading child porn. Yeah. So they got 30 additional years in federal court, both of them.
Good.
For that as well.
Jesus Christ.
So this is a horrible story.
Fuck?
Horrible story. These people deserve to be in prison for sure. My question for you, and I think we're getting to a point here. How do state and federal charges like this, how do they overlap? How do they coincide?
Well, it completely depends on the terms of the deal, right? I mean,
They're
so
they're in
typically-
for 99 years in Alaska, unless I guess some Alaska
Sure.
governor feels real sorry for
yeah, that's never
for
gonna
them,
happen.
which I don't think is going to happen. Well, Alaska's a very
So-
very red state. Does not,
No. Well, the state's red, but the population isn't.
It's
I was shocked when I was driving around Anchorage before we flew back recently in September how many Harris Waltz things there were.
Yeah.
I didn't see one single Trump sign, and I saw Harris Waltz stuff everywhere.
Well, you're in the big city, right? The big city of Alaska.
Austin, chop that hand off right now with a meat cleaver. Do it. Pull your meat cleaver out and chop your hand off. No. Grab it. I know what's in your bag. Do it. Should I be arrested for that?
For what?
If he cut his own arm off?
If you asked him to.
It's so stupid. That's the
mean-
dumbest thing. Hey, somebody, I got this money. If you go murder someone, you can have it.
Hey,
Like, what?
but this is a specific
Right,
relationship, and this,
but he didn't say kill this person. I really hate Rebecca.
I
He said
don't-
if you kill a
I don't
random
know
person.
I don't know if it developed into that where there was a specific plan or not.
I don't know.
And this is, I don't know Darren Schmiller, but I know he's a bad person because he's also trading CP online.
I mean,
you know?
yeah, never mind. I don't feel bad. I don't feel bad for him, but like,
Pretending to be somebody he's not, who gets like. This,
Okay,
this
so
is why
back to-
teenagers and young 20-year-olds are stupid.
and they should not have the internet. Back to what should happen here. So cases are either run consecutive or concurrent. Consecutive means one right after the other. Concurrent means if you imagine both of them are sitting on top of each other, and so every day counts for 2 days, one in each case. So typically the way it works, at least from as far as I've seen that I can recall, the feds are hard-nosed. They
And
usually
they're not going to accept it. What if she or he does 30 years in the Alaska system? Would the feds just say, "Oh, that's good"?
sometimes
You did
they'll
your
run it
30
concurrent,
years.
sometimes they won't.
You did your 30 years,
But typically it's the case that's sentenced last is the one that gets to decide that.
yeah.
So
And the child porn stuff was the most recent stuff.
So it literally just depends on what they want to do. They can run it consecutive if they want.
These are gross people, man.
But also they might want to because it doesn't matter. They're going to die in prison. And then the feds don't have to pay for it.
yeah, no, that's good too. Hey, Alaska wants their pound of flesh from these people too. I think. I don't know. All of them are bad crimes, but
Here's
that
a
was the
question
more
for you.
immediate crime.
And I'm going to kind of weave this. So you know that in certain states, when they know that you're terminal, they have what's called death with dignity, right?
Sure.
Like Oregon, like
Yeah.
if it's within a certain time frame, there's like strict criteria. They'll hand you a couple pills. You can take them in your own family, bread, all that stuff,
Okay.
comfort, blah, blah, blah. Do you think when a person is sentenced like this to where they are never getting out, that they should be allowed to opt for some kind of, hey, I'm going to die in prison anyway?
This goes to the punishment being more preventative for other people, kind of like an exhibition. Hey, if you do this, then
Sure.
that's an easy road out, isn't it? Like,
I don't know. That's why I'm asking the
I mean,
question. Because they die.
is the state inflicting like
They cease to exist.
emotional distress for so long, like while you're in prison, knowing that you did this and now you have to sit here and think about it? Like, nobody ever gets rehab doing that, do they? And that's not the point of somebody with a life sentence either. It's
It's to
punishment.
keep them away from society
It's
because
punishment.
it's that they are deemed unworthy to be in society for what they did, but at the same time, it doesn't rise.
You're
to
not
the level
allowed
of
in the
capital.
game anymore because you can't play by the rules.
Sure, but it doesn't rise to the level of capital punishment.
Man, maybe this should. I don't know.
Do you see the reason I asked the question?
I do, but that gives them the power to decide, and I would guess that victims and victims' families would take problems with that.
Sure,
Would say
but
no, them living in prison for all this time is gonna,
Sure, but I submit to you that
maybe that's something.
maybe that's something, right?
Maybe-
Because then they no
maybe
longer exist.
Maybe at a certain age, and the government doesn't have to keep paying for them to exist.
The government pays for it.
Yeah,
That's great. Where'd the government get that money?
the taxpayers.
Oh, we pay for it.
the
Nice.
taxpayers. Yes. Well,
Nice.
that'll
I
come.
love that for us. Austin, pay more taxes.
Listener question.
Is it that time already?
Yes.
What?
I don't have time.
Time flies when you're having friends.
My
Or having
PNC,
fun.
my PNC's in the office.
Your potential new client.
Yes.
Huh?
So
Cut that. What time is it?
2:54.
What time? How much?
Oh yeah, we have about 5 to 8 minutes.
All right, perfect. Listener question.
so my wife proposition this one. Just seeing it online. This doesn't have to do with me. She told me not to mention her.
She propositioned what?
No, she
Who'd she
sent in this question. Shut up, Justin. So she found a question online of somebody saying, "Hey, I called the police because my boyfriend was being unruly. I talked to the police. I said that he had made contact with me. They came and they arrested him. I told them not to. I didn't want him to, but then they arrested him. What can I do? What can I do so that he doesn't face criminal charges?" I told them I don't want to press charges. But they arrested him.
The state doesn't care in a lot of instances.
State, city, municipality,
Whoever,
whatever
police.
it is.
What when they say unruly, what's they got him with like disorderly or something?
I mean the details weren't specific, but there was contact.
So the first thing that you can do, obviously, is tell the police because there's levels of discretion, right? The police have the discretion to arrest and charge, arrest and file or petition for charges. The state has the discretion to actually charge. So you can talk to the prosecutor. You can say, "Hey, look, this is a situation that involved whatever. I don't necessarily want him to get in trouble. I was just trying to get a situation fixed." So then, to back that up, you have a level of discretion to call the police. And if you don't, if it's not something that's bad enough, like somebody being unruly, you're not like the question doesn't say he was beating me.
Sure.
And that's a different story. But being unruly can be a bunch of things. It could be me having one too many of these and getting all hyped on sugar and running around screaming, right? That could be me being unruly. Or it could be me flipping tables and kicking holes in your drywall with my monster hat on backwards.
Ooh, Kyle.
Full on Kyling. Or it could be me being physically aggressive with you, being like, "I don't care that I'm in your house, Shane. I drank all your Vermont maple syrup and I'm going to beat your ass." Right? That's also unruly.
So when we've seen when a phone call is made and it's your 911 call is recorded and you say he hit me, that's enough for them to arrest him.
Somebody
and
going to jail.
He, I guess it's mostly he, but
Sometimes she.
it is oftentimes she.
My very first DV case that I had as a defense attorney was a she.
Yeah. No.
But she beat the shit out of her. Like, had her by the hair, whack, whack. Not good. Real bad.
Bruises tell a story.
Yeah.
So if there's ever bruises, if there's ever somebody that says, "I was contacted, I was hit," something like that.
The cops are coming.
Somebody's going to jail.
Yeah.
At least one person's going to jail.
Sometimes both.
Sometimes both.
E.g. Henderson.
So it could be both, and sometimes the prosecutor will run with it.
Yep.
And
sometimes they don't care.
You'd get subpoenaed to go testify against a person you don't want to testify against, even. And
So-
not answering a subpoena is
Could
its
result in
own
consequences.
crime. So
It can be. It can be. I've heard recently that Henderson has started doing material witness warrants, which means they'll arrest you and they'll force you to come to court. And then the judge can hold you in contempt for not telling your story. A lot of places don't do that. So again, not instructing any victim of a crime
No,
to
never.
do anything, but like structurally speaking, without a victim or a witness, you can't prove your case. So it's up to the person. In this instance, if they don't want to show up, they don't have to.
yeah,
There may be consequences depending upon the jurisdiction, but like let's say for example, Las Vegas Justice Court, I've not heard of them doing that. Like when people don't show up, cases get dismissed all the time.
but a person can, by their own words, call in and say, I hit him, or I hit her because she hit me.
Right, but then if you say
Or
that on
something
the,
like that.
if you say that on the stand, you're opening yourself up to criminal liability. Then they just immediately hand you a domestic battery and can theirs. And like, all right, well, we're getting somebody. But that, I don't know. This is such a complicated question.
Don't hit people.
That you're dating. That
Don't-
didn't hit you first.
Don't stay with people that hit you either.
Yeah, don't do that. That's awful. And
So you deserve
fellas,
better.
gals,
Everyone,
just use your words. And if you get mad enough to hit them, go for a walk.
love each other. Cherish each other.
Whatever. I don't care about any of that. But
Don't hit
just-
each other.
Just don't hit each other, dude. Just be nicer.
No contact, please.
No contact.
Please.
But today is a good day.
Let's all be friends.
Let's all be friends. Hey, get out and vote. It's important. Let your voice be heard. It's too late. The election already happened, but I hope that my thoughts go through this camera into your Wi-Fi.
Vote next time.
Vote next time.
Vote next time.
Vote, especially in local elections. They're important.
Please.
And you've seen some judges on our podcast you should have voted for.
Peace.
Get. Go on, get.